Yes, but the watcher is not separate from the watched. Although at a certain stage in the teaching we conceptualize them as the witnessing presence of consciousness plus the objects of the body-mind world. But actually, we can, if we look for that distance between the subject consciousness that knows and the object that is known, we never actually find the distance. So consciousness and its objects are actually, from consciousness's point of view, experience isn't divided into a subject and an object. Mm-hmm. It is consciousness itself that is taking the shape of mind. By mind in this context, I mean mind in the broadest sense of the term, to include all thought and perception. It's not, I don't just mean thinking in this case. When I use the mind in this context, I mean the totality of objective experience, thought and perception. It is consciousness itself that is taking the shape of thought and perception. And in fact, in order to bring manifestation into existence, consciousness has to limit itself. Because prior to manifestation, that is prior to the knowledge of an object, consciousness only knows its own unlimited being. That is its primary experience. So how could unlimited consciousness know a limited object? How could infinite consciousness know a finite object? There is no room in infinity for something finite. If something finite was to appear in the infinite, then that little finite something would displace a little bit of the infinite, and the infinite would then no longer be infinite.
Yes.
So infinite consciousness cannot know a finite object. So how then is consciousness going to bring manifestation into existence? Because manifestation means form. And form, by definition, means limitation. So in order to bring manifestation into existence, consciousness has to know something finite. But infinite consciousness cannot know something finite. Mm-hmm. Therefore, to bring manifestation into existence, consciousness has to overlook the knowing of its own infinite being. It has to forget itself. That is what Rumi meant when he said knowledge of the world is a kind of ignorance. It's what Wordsworth meant when he said our birth, or the birth of the waking state, is but a sleep and a forgetting. In other words, infinite consciousness appears in the form of finite subjects and objects in order to bring the manifestation which is inside itself in potential, out of itself into existence. And that's what existence means, ex and sistere, to stand out from. So in order to make a world stand out from itself, or seem to stand out from itself, because in fact no thing ever actually comes into existence, but in order to seem to bring manifestation into apparent existence, consciousness must fall asleep to the knowing of its own being. It must veil itself from itself, and only as such can it appear as the world.
I totally got it. Ultimately, that's, I guess what I'm describing is the structure of that. You know, in the waking state, there's this ignorance happens where consciousness limits itself,
yes,
and appears as, you know, that's over there. And
yes.
But I guess what I'm describing is the structure.
The structure of that limitation.
Of that, yeah.
The structure of that limitation is in fact, the laws of physics are not in fact the laws of physics. They are the laws of mind. We only think they are the laws of physics because in our culture we still believe in material stuff called matter. In fact, there is no material stuff called matter. It's all mind. But that doesn't mean that the laws of physics are nonsense. It's just that they pertain to the the patterns and habits that govern the unfolding of mind rather than the behavior of matter. So this unfolding of mind proceeds in an orderly fashion through a series of laws through which consciousness is progressively narrowed until it appears as the material world.
I see that. I guess I was just asking if these observations I've been making during the meditations, looking closely at the way the world appears and noticing how, in a sense, what we're looking at now is it's like our biography in motion.
Yes.
We think this has happened. That what we're seeing is what is, but it's a limitation, which is
it's what's happening. It's not what is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is all past, in a sense. The limitation is the imposition of memory, the constant imposition of memory.
In order to conceptualize it as a limited object, what we are conceptualizing has already passed by the time we've conceptualized it. But in order to experience it, we're not experiencing the past. It's not possible to experience what's past. Mm-hmm. So the actual experience itself is always an experience in the now, and it's always actually an experience of consciousness alone. We have to engage in an act of conception or thought in order to abstract a multiplicity and diversity of objects and selves from the moment itself.
So there's
which is infinite consciousness.
There's the experience which happens in no time.
The experience itself always happens out of time, out of space, and is only infinite consciousness.